answers, I change the questions.
It's me, Austin!
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Brett screwed Brett.
Yeah! Can he do it? Collar! Oh, and a kick out! Unbelievable!
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support today. And hey, are you sick and tired of dropping $6,200 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game every single year? And let's be honest, they don't really change all that much. Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create a wrestler, sign contracts, get into storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation from the ground up, championships, everything you could think of, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shout-outs like my good buddy John down in Texas. John, always love to give you that shout-out. Then pop over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. We've got loyalty rewards. If you donate $15 a month, you're doing a live show with me. If you donate $7.50 a month, we're going to enter you into a drawing to also co-host a live show with myself on one of our live episodes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you've got questions, comments, concerns, something you want to talk about on a future episode, give us a shout at the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, 267-642-1160. Leave whatever you'd like for us to get to there, and we will try to get to that, as many of those in a future episode as possible. Jumping into the news for the week, there's a lot going on in WWE, and to be perfectly honest with you, I love a lot of it. Bored to death with some of it, but let's get into some of it. First off, things I love. I'm loving the Asuka heel turn. I'm loving the whole new version of Damage CTRL 2.0. Some of the greatest talent coming together, making a faction, a legit faction that, let's be honest, this is almost like bloodline level quality on the women's side of things. And I think that's something we kind of needed for quite some time, something to unify other talents around. Now, I get it. It's War Games season, and I'm sure that's where we're headed with this because that's just what we do. But the really big shame of the whole thing is the fact that Dakota Kai isn't cleared to wrestle yet, because then he could have had a 5-on-5. But as you know, right now it looks like you're going to have the four women. You're going to have Asuka, you're going to have Io, you're going to have Bayley, and you're going to have Kairi Sane on one team. The other side, obviously, Shotzi. I don't know if we can call her Blackheart anymore. I think they've totally dropped that and forgotten about the Blackheart part. So Shotzi, Charlotte Flair, and Bianca Belair. And then, of course, the question is who's number 4? And the prevailing thought all week has been that number 4 would inevitably be Becky Lynch. There is so much complexity to that being a possibility, in that Becky Lynch and Charlotte have real-life heat, used to be best of friends. My understanding is they've never really fixed whatever those issues were between them, maybe some professional animosities, some other things here and there. But now you're going to put them into a match, and not just any match, potentially into a War Games match, which is one of the most brutal matches possible, to see if they can coexist. I am all for it, to be perfectly honest with you, but I'm curious to see how they, I'm sure they're both pros. I'm sure they'll probably put on a great match, but I just find it very interesting that they're going to be in there together, assuming that's who they put into the match. And let's be honest, I still think that's where they're going, and I think that's what we'll see. My problem with it is you've spent several weeks building up Xia Li over on Raw, wanting a match with Becky Lynch, everything that went down on Monday night. The match that's coming up next week on the Go Home episode of Raw ahead of the pay-per-view. And what the issue I have is this was an opportunity for, like, if let's be honest, if Becky just goes out there and she wins the match easily, or even in a competitive match, if she wins, you've totally stifled all the progress you made with Xia Li. If Becky goes out there and loses to Xia Li, what does that mean for her as a prospect in the War Games match? It makes it, in my opinion, takes something away from that match, the prestige of having her in that match. I think they've booked themselves into kind of a corner here, trying to appease the television audience and also stack the deck for the pay-per-view. I think they should have pushed off the Xia Li thing till after the War Games, unless they're moving Becky to SmackDown, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me unless you're moving somebody to Raw. But who would you move? I don't think there's anybody, and we're all hoping to see that Becky Lynch-Rhea Ripley match at WrestleMania, so I wouldn't move her anywhere. Very curious, the booking decision here. Like I said, love the Damage CTRL 2.0. I think that's worthwhile. I think that has a lot of opportunity there. And, of course, down the line, you'll see some kind of, turn. I'm sure Bayley will get booted out of the group at some point, and that would be her opportunity to go face again, which I'm not a big fan of. I think she works better as a heel, but whatever. It is what it is. It's like the Big Show. You got to bounce around every now and again. Moving on, let's talk about Imperium a little bit. Ludwig Kaiser this week, the backstage segment after his match and the conversation in front of Gunther, and just the implication that there could be a program down the line with Gunther and Imperium going against Jinder Mahal and Indus Sher. Look, I get it. And I don't want to sound like a fool here, but you got to do something with these guys to get them to where we want them to be. And what I mean by that is, I think right now the prevailing thought is that WrestleMania, Gunther will probably be facing Brock Lesnar. I know at one point that was off the table, but he really wants that. He's made it clear that he is the ring general, and really that's a match I think a lot of people would like to see. And there's rumor that Brock might actually take the Intercontinental Championship from him for the first time ever in his career at Mania. I don't really like that. I almost think it'd be better if he went over Brock and then got a world championship opportunity, won the world championship, and relinquished the Intercontinental Championship as kind of like, when the Ultimate Warrior wins the world championship, had both titles, had to give a one-up, and that led to a tournament where Kurt Hennig won the Intercontinental Championship. I'd almost rather they did that to end this historic run than have him lose to anyone. I don't want Gunther to lose to anybody. If he's going to lose to somebody, Brock Lesnar makes a lot of sense. But I don't know where he goes from there. Obviously, he has to have a world championship program somewhere in his immediate future. But this whole, flirtation with a Jinder Mahal, Indus Sher moment, I get it. It makes a lot of sense if you think about it. They got to put him with somebody. We've got a lot of months till we get to WrestleMania, even, less months to get to the Royal Rumble. But the Royal Rumble, you could do a lot of things with the Rumble. I suspect you'll see a lot of Cody and Gunther getting mixed up at the Rumble in some way, shape, or form, because that's a feud that we really do need to see in a much more substantial way, which, quite frank, I think that's the feud after Mania. Once Cody finishes the story, assuming he does, that you would want to do would be Gunther against Cody. I think that would be money. I think they have incredible chemistry from everything we saw last year at the Royal Rumble. But Gunther facing Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship is perfectly fine with me as well. Do you expedite the process and have Brad? The word is Brock is not scheduled the rest of 2023, but would be scheduled in 2024. Do you have him go to the Royal Rumble and win the championship from Gunther there and give Gunther the Royal Rumble victory so that he can go on and then face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship? I'm perfectly okay with that too, by the way. I just don't know what you do with the Intercontinental Championship if you don't give it to Brock then. So we'll have to wait and see. There was a lot of backlash about, dear God, please don't let us have a Indus Sher versus Imperium program. What are you going to do for the next 3-4 months? You got to do something of substance that keeps him busy and lets him go out and have some of these bangers that he puts on. And let's be honest, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people are so down over the past couple years on Jinder Mahal, and they make fun of his world championship run and all that. I had no problem with Jinder Mahal being world champion. The guy looked like $1 million, still does. He worked hard. Nobody has any trouble with Drew McIntyre, who is a jobber, going out, bettering himself, coming back, and becoming a main event player. So why not with Jinder Mahal as well? Now, I get it. The only difference there is Drew went out and came back and was instantly put into a program where Jinder had been jobbed out quite a bit prior to becoming world champion. That is the only flaw in their plan. I wish they had done things a little differently for that. But otherwise, I don't have a problem with Jinder. I just think right now he's not the best opponent, but I hope he goes out there if they do this program and shows everybody what he's capable of, because I think Jinder is a very underappreciated talent and somebody who really could be doing a lot more on WWE television. Speaking of Drew McIntyre, after Raw goes off the air, we know Drew McIntyre turns heel. He attacks Jey Uso, cost the tag team championship match for Cody and Jay, and which makes a lot of sense. I'm not upset with that decision at all, and we all kind of suspected this Drew McIntyre thing for quite a while. But after Raw goes off the air, Cody and Jay on the microphone saying that they have friends too, and it's surprising me, and maybe many other people, what I loved about this was all the conversation about CM Punk coming to Chicago, coming back to WWE, and all those things. The fans started chanting Randy, and I love that. Now, here's the problem. I don't want to know that Randy Orton's coming back. And I think at this point, pretty much everybody suspects Randy Orton is coming back. I don't want to know that. I'm going to go back to the 80s and 90s where you had no flipping clue who the heck was coming back, who was changing companies, whose contracts were running out. Don't get me wrong. I couldn't run this podcast if I didn't know some of those things. But as a wrestling fan, think about the difference in how you would feel if you were a fan in Chicago for AEW a couple years back when CM Punk returned, and if you had no idea Punk was coming. Okay? They sell out at that time, not now. Now they're having trouble with attendance. Back then, they were selling out every arena anyways. So sell it out, and then Punk shows up, and it's a shock. It's a surprise. The people in Chicago are going nuts because they coulda, woulda, shoulda been there. I like that stuff. I like the shock. Right now, I'm just waiting to hear, Randy Orton's Voices song play because I already know he's coming. It takes away some of the enjoyment. I like surprises. I like when I can't see something coming, and that's what we need more of in pro wrestling now, and it's difficult. And look, to be honest with you, AEW right now is doing it better than anybody. Some of the Ric Flair thing, that was fantastic. Are you kidding me? I love that Ric Flair's back in the fold. I don't expect him to wrestle, but he's got a mouth, and that guy can talk, and he can draw people in. Can you imagine him and MJF going back and forth on the mic, or him and Swerve, or him, whoever, pick somebody. It doesn't matter who. So I'll be very curious to see where they go with that. But in terms of this situation in WWE, we got a lot to look forward to with Randy Orton coming back. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy and whatnot and have several more years left in the ring. But the CM Punk stuff started now that WWE was looking to see who's going to cheer for what, and they weren't real thrilled that in the last couple shows, including Crown Jewel, people cheering for CM Punk. But this had to put some smiles on people's faces in the back that the fans are dying to see Randy. Now you have to ask yourself, why do they chant Randy? Well, because of shows like this and Busted Open Radio and all the other ones that tell you guys exactly what's going to happen. I get it. We've all known Randy Orton's coming back. We know he's been working towards it. We know he was seen at the Performance Center. They had to put together some creative to get him back and all that kind of stuff. And here's Survivor Series, where the original tagline, for those who weren't alive or didn't watch wrestling back in 1987, 88, whatever it was 88 that it first came out. I think it was 87. They called it Teams of 5 Strive to Survive. We needed 5 people. That's what you're supposed to have. It's not supposed to be 4 on 4 on 4, and none of that nonsense. It's supposed to be teams of 5 strive to survive. That was the original tagline. So I like having 5 on 5. So this should be good. But keeping with the CM Punk conversation, let's be honest, Shinsuke Nakamura cutting his promo on Monday night. I know it all ends by my hands. He has this deep emotional vignette that he shoots in all Japanese, which I love that, by the way. He says, "I'll wait for now," and whatnot. I love this, but of course people right away assume things. Either he's going for Seth Rollins again, which doesn't make a lot of sense, or he could be going for somebody else, like a Cody Rhodes, which would make some sense, except that the conversation about being patient and all that kind of stuff, and he wants to take the opportunity to strike and the right moment and all that kind of stuff. It just doesn't feel like it's Cody, but Cody would make a lot of sense. But I'm not sure where they're going with that. Now, there's, of course, people jump out right away, and there's CM Punk. Well, he did do the GTS a few weeks back, but people keep insisting that Punk is not talking to WWE. Now, I just got done saying that AEW does this better than anybody. Is WWE swerving, no pun intended earlier, all of us? Have they had the conversations with Punk? Has it been made clear that nobody is to speak of this? Let's be honest. If you keep it hush-hush enough, it'd be very obvious who the people are who are leaking the information. If it's between Triple H, Nick Khan, and CM Punk, and they find out, then you know. So, in my personal opinion, I think it's still a possibility. I know I'm in the minority. Most people think now that the Randy Orton thing is coming back and he's the surprise entrant for whatever, blah, blah, blah. They may even announce Randy Orton next Monday on Raw to avoid people assuming it's going to be Punk if Punk's not coming to Chicago. But can you imagine if we get both? We get CM Punk to come out and face Shinsuke Nakamura, which would be awesome. That's a match I would love to see. And then you also get Randy Orton. I think that is the best of both worlds. And let's be honest, a multi-billion-dollar corporation needs to do what is best for business. I hate that phrase, but it's true. And in this case, CM Punk makes a ton of sense. Put all the provisions necessary into the contract. Make it so if the guy sneezes wrong, you can fire him without one nickel going back to him and give him a lifetime ban on ever coming back to the company unless you rescind that offer if he screws up. Do whatever you have to do to make that deal happen, but make it happen. That's just my opinion. The last thing I want to touch on, Rey Mysterio. I love the Santos Escobar turn. I love how they did it. I think it was interesting. I didn't understand at the time why they had Rey get his leg pinned between the steps and everything else, but it turns out he's undergoing surgery. Now, the real question is this surgery legit or is this kayfabe? Selling the injury. It's not like we're all like the picture that he released online. It's just him laying there with a leg brace on. Like, we don't know. There's no details about what was injured or what he had done, or did he just have a scoping, or did he have something drained, or, the guy's had knee problems for forever and a day. I do love what they did with the LWO and that whole situation. Of course, there's things they probably could have done a little bit better, but I think they did a masterful job with how they pulled that together. And I'm very much looking forward to Santos Escobar having matches with Carlito, with him having matches with Rey Mysterio. And then, we'll see where he goes after that. Hopefully the rub from Mysterio will catapult him into a higher position. And I think he's earned that. I think he's done just phenomenal work in the ring. And what a get for WWE having Santos on the roster. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next time when we'll run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing any music or sound effects we use in our shows. Today's podcast sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bring a new friend to family game night. It's really easy. Grab a copy of Sketchy People. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to thegamecrafter.com and picking up your copy today, just in time for the holiday. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, maybe you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life educational planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Dr. Fro. I want to thank you so much for taking a few moments with us tonight. Until next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.